Hey there, popcorn lovers. Welcome back to Popcorn Paparazzi. Today we're diving into the chilling story, a man who turned a popular TV dating game show into the backdrop for his sinister double life. We're talking about Rodney Alcala, the so-called dating game killer. Just hearing that nickname sounds like the plot of a bad horror flick, am I right?
Absolutely, Sarah. And get this, he didn't just appear on the dating game in the 70s. He actually won the date. He's up there, charming the audience, flashing that winning smile, all while hiding a secret life that's pure nightmare fuel.
Imagine going on a date with someone who has an entire trophy collection of unsettling photos. Pictures by posing as a photographer. That's what he would do to lure his victims in, pretending he worked for the LA Times, getting these young women to follow him out into the desert to take photos of them. If that doesn't scream red flag, I don't know what does.
But there's more. Today, we're also talking about Woman of the Hour, and this is Anna Kendrick's directorial debut, where she tackles this very story. And let me tell you, it's a gripping take that sheds new light on a dark chapter in history.
This movie was a bit hard to watch. The 70s are often called the serial killer era. You have Ted Bundy, John Wayne Gacy, the Zodiac Killer. But I think unbeknownst to a lot of us, Rodney Alcala was right in there with the rest of them.
Yeah.
And these criminals took full advantage of a time when forensics was rudimentary and surveillance cameras were rare.
Exactly. And what's even more shocking is the estimated number of Alcala's victims. Over 100. It is absolutely horrifying to even think about it.
It is. And over in our podcast, we talk a lot about the victims. We talk about how he was only charged for only 7 of those murders. But like you said, I mean, it could go up as high as 100 or more.
Yeah.
So really interesting stuff over on our podcast about that more in depth. Not only did this decade spur huge leaps, though, in criminal profiling, but it fueled decades of documentaries and movies that we cannot stop watching.
Mm-hmm.
With that, Cassie, why don't you tell everyone, what is this movie about?
This film is about an aspiring actress who hopes that appearing on a dating game show will be her big break. But what she doesn't know is that contestant number 3 is hiding a dark secret, a secret that can turn her life into a real life horror story.
Intrigued yet? Okay, we won't spoil it all here, but trust us, there is so much to unpack with this story.
Anna Kendrick's approach in Woman of the Hour is nothing short of brilliant. She doesn't rely on gore or gratuitous violence. Instead, she builds tension through unsettling moments. It could be a creepy photo, an unsettling glance, the sounds of nature, which all keep you on the edge of your seat.
Yeah, I'll say that, and you probably agree with me, the opening scene of this film just grips you and guts you at the same time.
Yeah.
I mean, basically, we see exactly what Rodney would do to his victims in that opening scene, and it's so upsetting. We get him with this woman, and he's taking her photo, and it looks like such a lovely day, and then horror strikes.
Yeah.
So I feel like on top of that, there's a thread that goes through the whole film, though, which is highlighting the misogyny of the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's what Kendrick really tries to focus on, actually, for the entirety of the film. And let's be honest, it still persists to this day.
Yep.
But in the film, she really portrayed this from the condescending police officer that dismissed the woman who had concerns about Alcala from when she saw him on the show that day, to the demeaning questions that the game show host had Kendrick's character, Cheryl, asking the 3 contestants. And Kendrick just captures the complex dilemma that women face in navigating the interactions that we have with men.
Yep. And one of the questions that really stood out to me in that scene, the character Cheryl is having a conversation with the makeup artist and asking what questions should she ask, because she wants to kind of flip everything on its head and take control. And the makeup artist said, the real question is, which one of you will hurt me? Which is so scary to really sit and think about that question. but something that, especially when women are dating, do we really have that in our mind? Do we really know who these people are that we're going out with? It's scary.
Okay, now that you're saying that question, I have a follow-up question for you.
Okay.
How did you hear that question? Because it sounds like you heard it as like she's saying, which one of you will actually physically hurt me?
I took the question as just a very complex question with a lot of different meanings. And it could be several layers or levels of hurt that we could do to, our significant other or whoever in our lives. Yeah. So I think it's a very loaded question because it could have several you know what I mean? It can mean several things. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I could see that because hearing her say that in the context of the movie, which is about a physical abuser, you're thinking maybe physical.
Yeah.
When I heard it, I was thinking she meant like, who's going to break my heart kind of situation.
Yeah.
So you're right. I think you could take it in multiple ways. But I found, and one thing that we talk a lot about in our podcast on this episode is the movie versus real life. And kind of what was taken from the real life situation and what was changed for movie purposes. And one thing that I thought was interesting that I'll share here is when the dating game was actually happening, Cheryl asked contestant 1, which was Rodney at the time, to describe what are you called and what do you look like? And his response was, I'm called the banana and I look really good. And then she said, can you give me more of a descriptive answer? And he said, peel me. Gross. Oh my God.
So cringy. So crunchy. Just everything that's wrong is
I wish we
in
knew
that
what
answer.
Those other contestants were saying to why she picked Rodney on top of the other two.
I was going to say, if he had the best answers and that was one of the best answers, I don't know. I'm glad I was not dating in the 70s. I'm glad I was not born into that era. Oh God. And I think another important piece of this story is, and something that I think we definitely have to mention, is the true hero of this story, Amy, the character inspired by teenage runaway Monique Hoyt, who showed incredible strength and survival instincts. Her story adds a compelling layer to the film.
Honestly, for no other reason than Amy's story, you should watch this movie. Yeah. The fact that this girl was only 15 years old and did what she did to save herself and it worked, and it's what brought him down in the end.
Yeah.
Absolutely incredible. And for that alone, you guys, check out our podcast, watch the film. It's an amazing, amazing story. What's fascinating too is that this film portrays the unspoken understanding among women.
Yes.
How we can give each other one subtle look and say everything, right? And there's a really powerful scene that you and I have discussed, and we really get into detail over on the podcast, which is that the waitress, so basically after the dating game is over, Cheryl and Rodney go out to get a drink, thinking, okay, this is how they can kind of get to know each other before they go on this experience that they've won. And when they're in there, there's a moment where Cheryl and the waitress lock eyes and they tell each other what's needed in that moment. And the waitress picks up on it and really helps her out. And it's moments like these that make this film so impactful.
Definitely. So if you're curious about how a charming game show contestant could be hiding such dark secrets and how Anna Kendrick brings new perspectives to light in her directorial debut, you won't want to miss our full podcast episode.
That's right. We dive deeper into the movie's themes. We discuss what worked, what didn't. We talk about fun facts between the real life story and the movie. We give our final verdicts and our buckets of popcorn. We let you know if this movie is worth a watch, which you might already have guessed. We do think it is worth a watch, but find out why and how many buckets we give this one. Trust us, there is a lot more to talk about.
So grab your popcorn, lock those doors, and join us as we peel back the layers on Rodney Alcala and Woman of the Hour.
To hear our in-depth review and all our thoughts, like we said, head over to that podcast, guys, Popcorn Paparazzi. You won't want to miss it. And if you like what you hear, show us some support. Hit that subscribe button.
Until then, stay safe and always trust your instincts.
Bye, guys.
Bye.